Hello there everyone, today we'll be taking a look at Uncharted Drake's Fortune. In my eyes, this was my very first, at the time, next-gen experience and gave me hope for great things to come in the future. However, that was way back in 2007 and a lot has happened, both in the gaming industry and in my own personal life. I like to think that I have matured and have a more critical eye now, so I am here to replay and rediscover Uncharted, putting my nostalgia to the test. Like I said, it's been 11 years since I first beat it this game on the PS3, but this time around it will be very different. I intend on 100%ing all trophies and am estimating completing the game at least 3 times, one on crushing difficulty, one as a speedrun on easy, and one last playthrough on brutal, which is the new difficulty added to the PS4 version. Without further delays though, please enjoy my review. This game is still very pretty. The lighting, the art design, the animation is all great, and the rise to 60 FPS and the texture quality improvements really stand out on what it is by now an old game. But more on that later. For now, let's focus on the plot, more or less at least. The game starts us off with the discovery of a grave belonging to Sir Francis Drake at the bottom of the ocean by our main character Nathan Drake, no relation, which is accompanied by a reporter named Elena Fisher. She's hoping for the biggest scoop of her career, and he's looking for a dead man's diary. A strange thing to say indeed, but accurate nonetheless. As Nathan opens the coffin and gets what he wants, Elena becomes disappointed that there was no body. Shortly after, they get attacked by pirates and you put in the shoes of Nathan for the first time. If you played the original, you will notice the change in the aiming system, as it was tweaked to be closer to Uncharted 2. Also, the enemies aren't walking sponges anymore and actually die in a reasonable time span. This part will serve as a tutorial to the basics of the game, such as shooting, taking cover, and melee. And shortly after, the pirates destroy the boat they were in and Victor Sullivan, Drake's friend, comes to the rescue in an airplane. And with no more interruptions, let's wrap up what I consider the beginning of the game. Drake shows Sullivan the diary and where he thinks El Dorado is located, and despite Drake's reluctantness, Sullivan sails off and they leave Elena behind. They quickly find themselves in a jungle and after some exploring find out that the giant gold statue is already gone. Following drag marks on the ground, they stumble upon an old submarine that, of course, Drake decides to explore while Sully stays behind waiting. Inside, he finds a clue to where El Dorado might be, but by the time he gets out of the wreck, Sully is already accompanied by new friends with flowers and wine. Or was it guns? Long story short, Sully gets shot and Drake takes the opportunity to escape. In the meantime, he reunites with Elena that followed their trail there and they both end up escaping the jungle. They both go to the new location where they think the treasure is, but crash the plane when they get there and both are separated. This is where I truly think the game begins, and the main focus is finding Elena, at least for a little bit. This game consists of 22 chapters and throughout them you will be doing one of 3 things: platforming, shooting, and puzzle solving. The shooting, like mentioned before, was improved and made similar to its sequel, which makes a great difference in modernizing and improving the original. As for the platforming, I didn't notice any big changes, but the 60 FPS instead of the original 30 really improved the ease and smoothness of all movements, including the climbing and jumping, minus a few times. Puzzles were extremely easy and serve more as a slow-down tactic. Don't get me wrong, I think they are enjoyable and they help with the fantasy of unraveling a mystery and going on an Indiana Jones-ish adventure. I wouldn't want them gone, but maybe a bit more challenging. Throughout the chapters, you will find the only collectibles in the game, treasures. These are honestly great and serve a purpose to the player in the form of unlockables such as cheats, skins, and concept art. All of the treasures are fully 3D rendered and filled with detail, allowing you to rotate them and inspect them from every side. This really helps you feel like you're a real treasure hunter in a world that already exists before you came along. This is truly where the game shines. The level design is incredible and very beautiful to look at. Naughty Dog did a great job emulating a summer blockbuster movie that felt real and independent from you, never really feeling like you were necessary, but at the same time still distant enough from reality to be interesting and engaging. Even the places clearly placed for cover feel natural small and don't stick out in the design of the level. Speaking of cover, be prepared to use it a lot, especially in harder difficulty. Luckily, the game mostly works well in this aspect, but sometimes Drake will go where you don't want him to go or won't smooth transition from cover to cover like he's supposed to. This didn't happen all the time, and the more you get used to the controls, the better it gets. The enemies are also quite dangerous and can kill you relatively fast even in easy mode. This is especially true in brutal mode. That is, to be honest, a bit unfair and frustrating, as it felt like most enemies could drop you like a fly with one hit and ammo was very scarce, making cover more important than ever. In all honesty, unless you really need all the trophies or just want a bigger challenge, I would not recommend this mode to anyone.
Oh my god, no!
It rewards you with nothing aside from an optional trophy. However, even if you want the platinum of this game, this trophy is not necessary and is treated as DLC. If you really want to do it but don't necessarily want the abuse that it brings, I recommend watching some speedruns and skips. I found that using these made it much more bearable, as some really hard parts are completely avoidable. Plus, at least once I just clipped into the wall, grabbed onto the ledge of the map and shot the enemies through objects. Remember, work smart, not hard. Don't really worry about skipping complete chapters, as I did that and it still registered as complete even when I didn't even start them. Just in case though, I would recommend on the speedrun to not skip full levels. However, if you so choose, it is okay to do smaller skips and test the big ones, so I can confirm if the trophy will pop or not. The speedrun is nonetheless pretty easy. By the time I did it, I was already familiar with the game and you can just play on easy mode. Adding up that the timer was generous enough and restarting checkpoints manually places your timer on the same time you were when the game saved itself. It was a fun experience with almost no hassles that made me play in a more aggressive way, which in turn made it feel fresher from my previous playthrough in which I cowered most of the time waiting for the enemies to come to me. So from now on I'd like to discuss the ending. So if you've never played this game, you have been warned. There are spoilers from now on. Okay, cool, onward. I'll try keeping it short and simple. Nate reunites with Elena. She's fine. There's a few guys. They're evil. He wants El Dorado. They find a lost city that was destroyed out of nowhere. Both Nate and Elena do some stuff and find out Francis Drake's diary took a literal bullet for Sully and he's actually not dead. They reunite. Sully has been gaining time sending the bad guys on a goose chase. Elena and Drake find Sir Francis Drake's body and some sad stuff about Nate's ring that belonged to Francis Drake, and he leaves the ring behind with the dead body. Meanwhile, main evil guy number 1 and a named Soldier 1801 show up afraid of something that was hinted at right here.
Come on, we left those clowns in the dust ages ago! Oh my god! That's disgusting! Oh, I wish I had my camera. So what? The Spanish booby-trapped the island to protect their gold?
This wasn't made by the Spanish. Take a closer look at the spikes.
You have got to be kidding me.
This is from our plane.
Wait, that doesn't make any sense, though. Why would someone set traps like this when their own men are crawling all over the island?
They wouldn't. Something's been here since the trap was sprung.
Something or someone? Do you think
Shh. Do you hear that?
Hear what?
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. We're being watched.
Watched?
Yeah, you know what? It's probably nothing. Let's just get out of here before we run into whatever's been chewing on this guy.
Okay.
Super ugly dudes from I Am Legend show up and main evil guy number 1 and his bro die. Both Elena and Nate run away. Nate goes alone for a bit and discovers that El Dorado turned the Spanish into the I Am Legend creatures and that dead man Drake was trying to stop the statue from leaving and not taking it away like Nate intentionally thought. He goes to meet Elena, but she gets kidnapped by main evil guy number 2 and 3 and some random dudes. Nate meets Sully again, tells him about the curse, and they go to stop them from taking El Dorado away and rescue Elena. In a twist, it turns out evil guy number 3 knew about the curse all along and intends on selling it as a bioweapon to the highest bidder on eBay, I presume. So evil guy 3 tricks evil guy 2 into opening the treasure, which in turn makes him into the I Am Legend creatures and gets shot by evil guy 3.
Watch this.
They start raising El Dorado, and Nate must stop them as they get invaded by the creatures. Sully stays behind fighting them, and Drake jumps onto the treasure and falls on the boat Evil Guy 3 was going to flee on. This triggers the final chapter, and before continuing, I have to say it is a very easy chapter, except when you raise the difficulty to crushing or brutal. Then it becomes a nightmare, even though it is a very short chapter. It only has 2 checkpoints, one in the middle of the chapter and one in the end. I always struggle in the harder difficulties due to the lack of ammo and how fast Drake dies. But let's just wrap up this completely faithful and in-depth retelling of the story. Where was I? Oh, yeah. So you shoot some unnamed soldiers and reach Evil Guy number 3. You see Elena on the helicopter and start the epic concluding fight. It's pathetically easy, to be honest, and it's done before you know it. So the guy gets dragged to the depths of the sea with El Dorado. Sully shows up with a pile of pirate gold on a small boat, and the 3 of them sail into the sunset. Literally. And then something that always cracked me up happens. Something that is just so beautiful, you have to see it for yourself.
Sorry you didn't get your story.
That's all right. Know the other stories. You still owe me one.
I'm good for it.
Gets me every time. So what did I think of the story? Well, I liked it. It hits all the notes it needs to be enjoyable, and it's fairly interesting and engaging. Of course, it helps that it serves as a purpose for all the gorgeous locales in the game. 3 main characters are all fun, memorable, and well written, but I don't know if you could tell, I didn't really care for the bad guys. Honestly, I can't remember their names and didn't even care to Google them, because I felt it wasn't necessary. Their dialogue is good and I understand their motivations and purpose, but I didn't care to see them live or die, and the twist is honestly unnecessary since neither of the evil dudes gets developed enough for me to care. Nevertheless, it sets a nice foundation for what came in the future and finishes it all off an excellent soundtrack. There's a reason why the main theme is so iconic. Here's the truth about Uncharted 1. It's not perfect, but it's still a good game. Although it's not the same as when I was a kid, it's still very enjoyable and a perfect entry point to a franchise that keeps improving over the years. Just note that it's not a game that rewards 100% completion. Completing the game and getting all treasures is enough to give you all the rewards. More than that is only bragging rights. As for the story itself, it sets up the sequels very well, but honestly they could have done better with the evil guys and just stuff in general that would be nicer to have. But either way, it's still good. So with that in mind, you've heard my opinion and saw some gameplay. Now it's up to you to decide if this game is worth it for you or not. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to drop a like and subscribe with notifications on, of course. See you guys next time.